Hello everybody, it's LordyLord here and my LordyLord. Welcome to the podcast. And it's currently Wednesday, but obviously this is pre-recorded, but so by the time this comes out it'll be Friday. So hello, this is a message from the past. So if you do not know who I am a children's book author and illustrator. Now, you can search me up on Facebook as Matt Crossfield or just The Forest Railway Stories. We have our own website and we currently have got 3 books out, but I've just finished the 4th. And we'll be working on to the 5th because I have just finished the 4th. But anyway, let's not get into that. So, I was originally on DeviantArt for about 7 years. And I have been doing William Middleton illustrations. William Middleton was the very first illustrator of the Railway series until Audrey went, nah, I want another one. Someone who's much better. So, yeah. Let's not get into that yet today because today a number of people have asked me a couple of questions for the podcast. Yes. So, yeah, I was originally on DeviantArt, and it was quite recently, I think it was about last week, when I decided, hey, why don't I go on Twitter? And I have been meaning to go onto Twitter for quite a while, because I've been on Twitter for about 4 years under another account, but that's for work, that's for the book series. But I decided, why not just go onto Twitter finally and just show off your Thomas illustrations, and I have, and now I got about 400 followers. Thank you so much for your support. I have to say a big thank you to the Arch Minister and Joseph Loyne, who I think is Thomas Tank 123. I'm assuming. Because, well, I have to say a big thank you to these two because they have supported me from the start since I have begun the illustrations. So, let's kick off with a few things. So, Isaiah Williams have asked, like the first question here, so, how would you rank the Railway series illustrators? Right, okay. Well, it took me a bit of thinking over. I had to go over the illustrations and just to rank them, which is quite difficult since, you grew up reading this children's book series. You've enjoyed the illustrations, and it's hard for me as well to actually choose who is my least favourite. So, how many illustrators are there? There's about 6. Now, I'm going to cut that down to 5 because William Middleton does not belong on that list. Do you know why? Because it's like having Vincent van Gogh on a list of traditional artists. I mean, he does not belong on there. I mean, he was representing a very different pseudo. I mean, if he was allowed to continue the Railway series, it would possibly not be called the Railway series. It would be like a different book series. My guess, possibly the Railway Stories. I don't know. It's very hazy. It's like a different dimension. He started the pseudo multiverse. If you like to think of it like that. I mean, I've done a deviant of it already, which is quite silly anyway. But the point is that William Middleton is possibly, in my view, the real life Sodor, because if you have a look at the sky, and that is his particular area, the sky is very murky, it's very dense, it's very grayscaled, and you have to think, what does that remind you of? Well, that reminds me of the sky that I wake up to every single morning, and that is because it is a British sky, because Yeah, I have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that Sodor is a British Isle and Britain is possibly one of the most depressing places on earth. And this is coming from a Brit. Well, I wouldn't actually call myself a Brit because I live here in Wales, which is much more depressing. Yeah, but I'm really happy to be Welsh anyway. But the point is that with the illustrations, it promotes a lot of things in it. That the fact, especially with the faces, that the faces are very profound in Middleton's work. That he expresses quite a quite an intense feeling with the characters' faces. That he puts a lot of detail, particularly in the eyebrows, which is very, very fascinating. I mean, just very quickly, just going through the list, I'm just going to have a look at, is it Kenny am I thinking of? No, hold on. 8 famous engines. Okay. Just bear with. Gallery. Yes, I'm on to the wiki thing. Okay, let's take an example. Percy takes the plunge. And they have updated the illustrations. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Now, I would say about the Kenny, his special feature are the eyes, okay? The eyes. Perfect. Now, I would say about Edwards Governor and Peter Edwards. Let's just stop moving. That their feature are the mouths. So they do mouths really, really well. So they have different specialties. And Middleton, his specialty are the eyebrows. There are so much going on if you just have a look. But then this is just me, just saying, because once you have a look at one illustration, then you decide to go quite deep into it. But anyway, let's get straight to the point. I'm not going to include Middleton in it because he belongs somewhere else. He belongs in a different universe. That's what he was doing. It's representing a very different Sodor. Right, so anyway, let's get on. Yes. So now we are left with about five illustrators. Okay, so at last, I'm going to do last to best. Okay, so I knew who was going to be last. I'm so sorry for this list, but I will have to say that last is Clive Spong. Okay, I'm so sorry. But I got a couple of books here. I've got New Little Engine. So I just have to double check. Is this definitely Clive Spong? Yeah, illustration by Clive Spong. Yes. Now, the reason why I put him last is because when you have a look at his illustrations, I'm particularly having a look at Sir Handel's plan, and the illustrations are decent. They are decent, they're quite nice, but the problem is they're too structured. If you have a look at the formation of the engines, he does people good, but the problem is that with the engines, he is very precise into knowing what size the engines are, what's the chassis basis, but I say that, but in Speed Killer, he makes Rheneas about an 042 for some reason, which I don't understand. But yeah, the point is that if you have a look at the boiler, the sharpness here, and the preciseness of the buffers and the funnels are quite different. And if you compare them to Middleton and the other illustrators, they didn't bother with the shape of the funnels, but Spong did, These are narrow gauge engines. He makes Scarlowi's funnel very different different from Sir Handel's. But yeah, it's too structured. There's not enough layers, and I must say this, that one illustration must be enough to express a narrative, and that's the problem with Spong. I'm just going to cut out the story here, and just looking at the illustration, I mean, this could be about anything, can't it? But no, I mean, without the narrative, without the story, this is just a blank canvas, literally. I mean, like I said, one illustration should be enough to express a narrative, but Spong does not do that. I'm sorry. Okay, so now on to number 4 and number 3. Now, I was very, very tied between Reginald Dalby and Reginald Payne. So, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm going to put Dalby 4th. Now, the reason why is that even though I grew up reading books like Troublesome Engines or Trouble in the Shed, James the Red Engine, and the illustrations are nice, but the problem is that they look like something that is from the Beano or the Dandy. He has a very strong signature. You can see it. You can recognize a Dalby illustration from anywhere, can't you? I mean, it's the faces again, like anywhere else. But the thing is with Dalby, is that he's less of an illustrator and more of a cartoonist when it comes onto the faces. And the style is a bit soft. We can compare Dalby's work with Payne's because they're both bright, they're very colourful, but with Dalby, he makes them more look like of a cartoon, really. Doesn't look that real, does it? And you could tell where the TV series have got their inspiration from. Dalby. There we go. Okay. So Spong 5th and Dalby 4th. Now, which means that 3rd is Payne. Now, the reason why I put him 3rd is because if you compare his work to Dalby's, it looks like a lighter version. It's much more dense. It's it looks like a 1940s poster, and because of the very visual effects, it's very visual, and it's quite refreshing for when we come from Dalby's to his, because even though that you can see a tiny bit of a difference in it, but he allows a wash across his work, a wash that you don't see in Dalby. That is much more dense, it's refreshing, it's visual, and that is why I allow him to be 3rd. So anyway, now let's get on to number 2, and that is John T. Kenny. Now, the reason why I put him 2nd, now hear me out, is because of his examples of work, is that he is technically not an illustrator. I would not call him an illustrator ever in my life. Do you know why? Because then they're not illustrations, they're works of art. I mean, they're much more than illustrations. He is possibly the only traditional very series painter. I mean, I'm just having a look at just one. And unlike Spong, his paintings, not illustrations, paintings express a narrative. There's so much going on, He chooses the perfect colours. The problem is that they are less detailed, but they're very, very graceful. You know what I mean? His paintings are honest. It's very refining, It's just right to the tip. That's what I'll have to say, But what he's very good at is expressions. and he knows this, you know. I mean, God rest his soul, he knew that to sell a story, you just have to add a lot of human expression to it, you know. Not to go too detailed, he adds a grace of heaven to it. I'm sorry I'm going a bit too technical here and just praising him. Yeah, but you have to with Kenny. His paintings, not illustrations, paintings are very good. So he knew what Dolby did. Dolby chose very, very beautiful colours, but Kenny chose perfect colours. Okay? So which means that number one is Gunther and Peter Edwards. Now, there's a reason why I made the number one, is because it's immensely visual when you have a look at their again paintings. I mean, let's just take for one example, okay? I know the one is Enterprising Engines, and it's the scene with I'm going to try and find it right now. It's Hello Super Rescue. That where Henry has come to the end of the Express whilst hauling Diesel 199, and it makes you think that Edwards must have been there painting the scene for hours, and it's just, there's so much going on in one illustration, and that is something that you have to be so proud of. You know, if you have achieved that, then you can call yourself not an illustrator but an artiste. That the great thing about their illustrations is not just the faces, it's not just the people, it's the steam, and that is what they knew, that this was a steam railway and we have to add a lot of texture into the smoke, into the oil, etc. That it's visually stimulating, because they knew that I'm just having a look at Enterprising Engines. I mean, first off, we have got Henry pulling a face, you know, so we can tell that he's very worn out. And to how to back this up, this expression is the whistle, the steam coming out of the whistle. What reinforces, yeah, that's the word. Trying to think of words here. Trying to be like an artist here, you know. I'm trying to review illustrators. So, again, his face, he looks very worn out. He looks like he's about to fart, doesn't he? So he looks really worn out. So to reinforce that expression is the whistle, the steam coming out of the whistle, so you can tell, okay, Henry's worn out. Now at the back of Henry is the Diesel, and he's pulling like a tired face. So you can sort of tell that the Diesel, he is worn out, you know, he's packed in. So Henry must have pulled him up the line, and now he's tired. And now the drivers, the railway crew, have come out, and now they're talking to each other. There's one coming underneath Henry, and there's the railway crew, the driver and fireman from the Diesel. They're also coming out. So you can tell that they are having a discussion of what's the situation going on around them. What are they going to do next? So like I said, so much going on in one illustration. And the great thing is that I have to say this, that what Edwards had done was that they made the engines more human. They made them more human, because looking at the expressions, I'm gonna have another look at one. Like Henry putting a face. Now, just looking at this illustration, or nearly at every single illustration that has been done by Edwards, they added some nostrils, which is quite unique, because now we can see the engines in different angles. We could tell that they are much more human, and the expressions are very honest. They're very honest, very profound, and in a way made the Disney version of the Railway series. So that's them at the top. Okay, so that's my opinion of the Railway series illustrators. That's them, number one. Okay, so let's have a look at another question. If you could reboot the TV series from scratch, what style and techniques would you use? Well, for one thing, I would have made the big station Tidmouth. I mean, I do understand why Brit chose Knapford to be the big station. It was so to see more of Thomas. That's what I'm guessing. What else? Oh, God. Well, in my personal opinion, I would have done a completely different style with the faces. I don't know. I can't think of anything else. I mean, I don't see the point of Elsbridge. I mean, why can't we just replace the names? I mean, I think what Brit did was that she just made everything much more confusing. I mean, why not just allow just one version, just for it to, to be singular with the Railway series books? Why not just be honest for once, rather than going away and doing your version? I mean, you could say the same thing about me, but at least that I am referencing from the existing illustrations and just transferring them over to Middleton. That's what I'm doing. I can't think of anything else for the TV series. I mean, we all loved them. What else? Favourite book and season? Well, my favourite season is season 5. Yeah, or series 5. I mean, who cannot forget when Michelangelo went our fourth? That is ridiculous. But really loved it, because the way that he ended the episode was like a Looney Tunes episode, wasn't it? Like, and my mother is always right, our fourth. I mean, in that episode, Michelangelo sort of let loose, didn't he? He just went all the way. He was really enjoying it. Now, favourite book, I would have to say Troublesome Engines. Okay, so now let's go on to Joseph Loyne and ask you, what got you into Middleton artwork? Well, it was about, 6 years ago, and I discovered Middleton, and I thought, yeah, wow, this is quite unique. And like anything else, like in any community that you find, even the weird ones, that you think, oh, somebody must have done some illustrations in his style, or someone must have done something like this in this style, because you've got to realize that there are some people in a community that would take a chance, would find a spot that would make them unique. And I searched on the Google, with William Middleton, and it was very disappointing. So I decided, why don't I just do James? And a lot of people were asking me for commissions, particularly you, Joseph. And yeah, I think that's how it started. Sort of snowballed, and now I really like it. And now I understand the techniques of Middleton with the faces. The reason why the faces are so, the end of the boiler is so perfectly circular was just because he got like a 10p coin and just drew around it. I wish he had much more faith in the books. It could have gone to high places. But I think choosing Reginald Payne was possibly the best decision that Audrey made. Yeah. Okay, so let's go on to another question. And it's from the Ark Minister. Hello, Ark. Right, so questions. Favourite Sodor Railway? Well, it'll have to be the Scarloid Railway because I'm a narrow gauge fan. I've only been to the Tallyclinberry once. It was pissing down with rain and I really enjoyed it. My camcorder, everything, and there was Peter Sam with his face that looked like it was melting. Right, next question is, how do you make your Middleton and other drawings? Well, I use 2 programs, and that is Sketchbook Pro and Adobe Photoshop. So I jump between the 2. Sometimes I do this, I do that, and I realise, I can't do this on Sketchbook, so I have to do this on Photoshop. So if I can't do this and if I can't do that, then I just jump between the 2. So it's all about just experimenting most of the time. But Sketchbook Pro is just basically like a light version of Photoshop. I would say that choosing between the 2, that me ranking them, Photoshop is very, 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 very good, regarding to the best results, but Sketchbook is much more easier to understand, so I would say give Photoshop a chance. Okay, so, and the other question is, if you were an engine character from the Railway series, what type of loco would you be? I would say I would either be an N7 class from the LNER or a footballer class, which is a B17. I really like those classes. I'm an LNER man myself. Let's see is there any other questions? I think that is it. Yes. Right. That is all the questions. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And if there's any other questions that you want to ask me for, just let me know and just contact me on Twitter. And have a nice day. LordyLord out and LordyLord goodbye.